Hi and welcome, Amanda here, Creative Gardener. So I'm in my garden and I'm looking at my broadleaf thyme at the moment. It's growing out of control. It's growing so well that I'm cutting it back practically on a daily basis. You can use it as a herbal tea, you can use it in food to season foods. It's also got linalool, which is like an insecticide. It's used in chemicals that are supposed to deter insects. Okay. And there's another one, if I remember it, I'll splash it up on the screen. Anyway, so it is growing really, really well where I've got it, and I'll show you and explain. So I'm hoping to give you some tips in terms of growing it yourself. It's a really great plant to have, and it's really good to cover up those areas, like I'd say ground cover. I still have to, there's a few weeds like the vines that I have to get rid of, but at this particular moment I'm trying to cut a lot back. The other thing that I use it for is I put it in water and allow it to soak, and it releases the oils from the plant. So I'm just taking a leaf here. So here's one of the leaves, and if you crush it up, sometimes this is what I do in the garden, I crush it up, and because there's a lot of water that comes from it, but it's also got oils, so it's got a very, very strong smell. And so I put it in the garden, I put it back in the garden. The ones that I cannot use, I slightly boil them light or soak them in water, and then I put that back in the garden to help hopefully deter insects. Or we've got this, I can't remember what it's called, but this kind of red and black kind of insects that seem to, I've heard that it's a predator, so it eats the other insects, but it also eats the leaves. So it's eating the leaves of my pumpkin at the moment. Anyway, so without further ado, let me show you the patches that I've got growing. Okay, so as you can see here, this started off as one piece. This was just one piece like this, a cutting, and look at it, in the space of I would say, what are we in now, November, December, 4 months. From that cutting it's grown, and I've done this this particular one here. I've taken cuttings and I've cut this particular plant back at least 5 times. So I got a cutting and I put it here. This is growing, so I need to cut it back. On the other side of my lemongrass, there's a patch there. There's a patch there growing because, again, I wanted to spread it around the garden so that it would deter insects. But the particular insects that I want deterring, the plant on its own is not necessarily working. Maybe if I put it nearer things like that I'm trying to grow, but it doesn't seem to be having an effect. So I'm cutting these all back just to kind of maintain it. But it's a good plant to have anyway, because as I say, I'm using the leaves soaked in water, putting it back into the soil, so that's nourishing the soil. So I'm continually taking cuttings and putting it elsewhere in the garden. Here's another big patch growing. I put some in here. I mean, look at the size of the leaves. I mean, you know, but massive. I've never seen them this big, and it's probably because of the soil that it's living in. Here's another patch that I thought, let me see if I can just train it to grow up there, and it's doing the job. It's providing cover. I think it's quite easy to uproot. The roots are shallow, so although I've not seen where the thicker part of the roots is. So what I wanted to do is we've got like a mound that goes all around here, and I wanted to just see how quick it was going to grow, and this from one piece has done all of this. So it does really grow, and you have to be careful that it's not going to take over. But if you're putting it in places that you're not necessarily growing anything at the moment, or you want to kind of nourish the soil a bit. And that's what I want to do along these this area here. I want to kind of cut it back a bit, so make it not so sloped, and just cut it back a bit and have a better walkway here, or maybe even a seat, so I can look down into, I was going to say into the valley, but I can look down into the rest of the other plants that I've got. But as you can see, look, they're kind of it's forming a circle. Well, I did that unconsciously. Okay, let me show you some others that I've got. Again, so I put some at the edges of beds, hoping to deter insects and things like that. I mean, it may be working. I've just got to look after the beds a bit better, and I've done it on either side, but I'm going to have to move it because there's other plants that, or move them or just cut them right back, because there's other plants that I want to grow. And it's not as if you can just chop and drop this particular plant, because it will, wherever you cut it, you will find there will be roots growing. And I've got a little one here. I don't even think I put one here, but I maybe just threw a piece down and it's growing. And then here where I planted sweet potato, so I've got to pull up the sweet potato and see how many we've got, and I'm going to put this somewhere else, but anyway, it's not about this. Anyway, so this was again another one of the first ones I planted, and I've cut this back as well, but again, it really loves the soil that it's in. So here's what I'm chopping back. I've got to go and do lots more before the sun sets anyway, because there's other things I wanted to do today. So I'm chopping this back. I'm going to soak this in water, and then I'm going to use that and put it to nourish the soil. So you're not going to get growth from it, but you'll get the nourishment from the leaves, and going back in the soil. And that's what we want. We want the soil to be nutrient rich, so that other things can grow as vibrantly as these are growing. And I'm just like I've just never seen it grow so big. So I'm really pleased at the success that I've had, but I need to be able to make sure that I manage it. I'm taking cut-ins for friends, and just kind of spreading it around wherever whoever wants some can have some, because it's a really good herb to have. Okay, so I'm gonna get on with this, and the other thing I need to do is move and separate my lemongrass, because it's taking over, and I think it's impacting on the lemon tree I've got there and the lemon balm I've got there. So I'm going to have to move 2 plants. Anyway, so yeah, when I finish cutting back, I'll let you see what they look like. Okay, so I'm round the back of this, and you can see it should be cut there so that I can walk down this path. And it's kind of, we've had like several days of rain and then the sun, and so it's like I haven't had a chance to come out here. But a good thing about coming out here and just making sure, just checking on things, cutting back what needs to cut back, harvesting, so I'll harvest some of the leaves, the lemongrass, make herbal tea. But it's also good to be able to find things like this, and these things I don't want to grow because they wrap themselves around the plants and choke them. So a good thing is to be able to go around and just check on what's happening, what plants need nurturing. So my lemon tree needs something. I'll need to give it maybe some fertilizer, the natural fertilizer. I've been chopping and dropping there, but this one has got this growing. I need to find the root of it, and things like this. This was my bougainvillea. I put it here just so that I could allow it to catch, and so that I can then move it somewhere else. And it's actually growing quite wild, and so I need to take some cuttings here because I want the plant to actually be at the front of the house. And this is the other bit that's kind of, it's in flower at the moment, so I don't want to trouble it in flower, but I'm going to move it. But again, look at the leaves. It's growing where I got the cutting from, my old house. It was never growing this, you know, luscious. And obviously this spot here is full of all the nutrients that run down the hill and kind of end up here, and then it goes off into the well. So so yeah, this is, so it's a good idea to, you know, spend some time in the garden, going round, seeing what things are growing, what's doing well where, if you need to move it. I mean, this is still a work in progress, and I think rather than spending, like, you know, a whole day once a week, if you can spend a little and often, and it also helps you see, you know, is there a plant that's in distress? What does it need? Is it that the nutrients are running away, like my papaya tree? The leaves are kind of mottled. You know, what's going on there? So I need to kind of do some research as to what might be happening. Or it could be under attack by some, you know, some sort of bug. Or it could again be, I've got my grass there. This is the lemon tree. It was growing really well up until I put the lemongrass there. So maybe it's competing in a way that it doesn't need to. So I can easily move that and separate it, because that's what I want it growing. I want the lemongrass growing all over the place, because it's one of my favorite plants. Anyway, so I'm going to continue. I've been, you know, chopping back the broadleaf thyme, and so I want to kind of cut this back at least to there, and then I'll use the leaves for, you know, putting back into the soil. All right then, so I'm gonna get on. Okay, here's a plant now. I've kind of cut all of them back pretty hard, and I'll stand where I was standing to begin with. So it does look smaller. I mean, look at all that I've cut back. So there's 3-4 piles here and here, and the wheelbarrow, I put 2 cuttings in there, and look, they've just, as I was showing you, the leaves are really big, so I'm going to leave that anyway. But I've kind of made more space in the walkways, but again, the more you cut it, the more it grows. So I'm going to probably be cutting it again at the end of the week, but I need to you know, nourish the soil, and you can see how the beds kind of slope over in that direction. So I'm dealing with runoff as well. So I've got to make sure the beds are holding in the nutrients and the water, because then when we get the dry season, we are going to need it. We're going to need the beds to be moist. All right then, so I'm going to leave it there. I need to tackle the lemongrass bush, and I want to do that sunsetting, so I've probably got about 20 minutes before it kind of starts to get dark, and I need to collect all of this goodness in. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there, and I will be showing you the benefits of growing broadleaf thyme. So take care for now. Please subscribe and like as well. Thank you.